Hello YouTube, Tim with Outdoor Trail Hiker. Short update video on the Nissan Titan. If you haven't been following along with us, we're fixing to tighten up, upgrading a few things, getting it ready to do some overlanding adventures. We have already posted a few videos previously of some adventures we've made, but I think a lot of those we was in the Malibu. This has been a learning process for us, but I do believe it's slowly improving. But our real journey is going to start this spring when the weather's warmed up a little bit. But anyway, back to the Titan. I've put Bilstein shocks on it. I lifted the front end up an inch. I have completely rebuilt the parking brake. It has new brakes on it. I have installed an aluminum Stirling radiator. I run BF Goodrich KO2s. I use Mobile One products. Let's see, I have my bike carrier that goes in the back hitch where I can take my mountain bike. Pretty much, the truck is ready to go now. There's still things that I'd like to do to it, such as the front bumpers where I can mount a winch, maybe some rock sliders, depending on how extreme I plan on overlanding. But for the most part right now, the things I have planned, the truck as is fine. It'll do it all. It's going to be a lot of Forest Service roads because we're going to do a lot of camping in National Forest, among other things. For the truck, I did make a little bit of video on doing the parking brake and the Bilsteins that I'm going to post in case somebody else has to do it, to give them an idea what's involved. I did things a little bit different than some people would, but it worked and I got the job done. But I guess I'll go ahead and just get to that part of the video and leave y'all with that. Hope y'all subscribe to the channel and enjoy the video. As you can see, the tire's off. I've got the bottom bolt out. I have the 3 nuts off the top. And I'm fixing to see if I can wedge this out here without removing this knuckle and the sway bar link down there. So I'll see what happens and let y'all know. Well, there's the passenger side strut out, or shock. Didn't have to take anything as far as the sway bar or any of that off to get that one out. But when I put the driver's side on with the Bilstein, I actually had to drop the sway bar link just to get it up in there. We'll see how this side goes. Okay, so you've watched enough of the video. You saw that I got the strut off the front of the truck, or the shock with the spring on it. And I took it into the garage and I hooked up some spring compressors. Now, I highly suggest that when it comes time to swap your springs, you take your removed shock with the spring still on it to a shop and let them remove it, because it's going to save you a lot of pain maybe your life, maybe something breaking and getting flung through your body. You know, there's a chance of you getting hurt when you use those spring compressors. Now, granted, the ones I used, I've had for years. They were used one time earlier, years ago. I used them to remove the coils off the shocks or the struts of a Honda little car. And those springs didn't seem near as heavy as what these truck springs were. And as you can see by the picture, those compressors, the bolts going through them bent pretty good. Now they're not, I think those cost me $50 back in the day. But I used them, they worked. But I'm not going to say that every time I tighten the nut on that just a little bit more, I got just a little more clenching that butt cheek, you know what I mean? It's a pretty scary ordeal. But I got it done. And after seeing those being like that, I'm afraid they weakened, and I'm not going to use them again. They're going to go to scrap pile. But yeah, I mean, you can rent those with the hooks that, you know, from the auto parts stores to remove them. And several people said they've done it, no problems. One person told me that the best deal is to put 3 around the spring, and it makes it a lot safer. So that's an idea. Or you can just take it to the shop and let them do it. I'm not sure what they charge, probably $50 or something. But drop them off, let them do it, and bring it back. The only thing I do suggest if you take it to the shop is be sure that you have the position of the spring on the shock the right way. You know, be sure it's right. Before you leave the shop, you know, look at it and make sure everything's lined up the way it's supposed to. Because sometimes they don't know. But anyway, there is a certain way that spring should be on that shock. So without anything else really to say or cover, I just want to kind of put a word of caution out there. If you're using spring compressors, be really careful because you can get hurt. That is a lot of pressure on that equipment compressing that spring. But I made it, I'm alive, but I was sweating blood thinking about that thing popping off there. So anyway, if it comes to a good end, it's all good, right? All right. All right, I'm back. Like I said, I got the strut removed and I brought it in and I put my spring compressors on. Yeah, they're not high dollar, but I don't see any reason they shouldn't work. You know, I'm a shade tree mechanic, what can I say? Poor boy, you got to get it done any way you can get it done. So I'm fixing to see if this way we'll get it done. I'll let y'all know in a little bit. When I replaced the struts or shocks on the Nissan Titan, on the fronts after I had jacked it up, you know, pulled the tire, the first thing I did is I dropped both of the sway bar links. That made it way easier. I removed the 3 nuts on top. I removed the 1 bolt on the bottom. And I pulled the bottom out and I worked it to where the top cleared the bucket, and it came out. I tried at first to do it with the sway bar hooked up, and you was gonna have to lift it up over that sway bar mount, and it's just too hard. It's just easier to drop that sway bar and it will come out. Now, I did driver's side first. And for some reason, I had more problem with that side to the point I actually dropped the ball joint on the top arm, and so it would fall down a little bit more. But I didn't have to do that. I don't know why it was so hard. All I had to do is drop both of the sway bar mounts. So anyway, you live and learn. Passenger side, easy as pie, no problems at all. Rear shock, straightforward. You know, take the bottom bolt out, take the top bolt out, pull it out, get the new one, put the top bolt in first, jack it or push if you're strong enough, push up the bottom of the shock, throw the bolt in the bottom, bolt it up, you're ready to go. On the emergency brake, or the parking brake, it's pretty straightforward. I didn't do a step-by-step video. You know, you take your tire off after you jack it up. Make sure you use jack stands. There was two 10mm bolts holding the brake caliper on. Take those loose. Take the caliper out. Tie it up where you don't drop it. You know, get it out of the way. Pull the hub off, or rotor. Pull it off. And your emergency brake's going to be up in there. And there's a video on YouTube already about doing this job. He used pliers, and I think he put the big spring on last. But the way I did it is I mounted the brake pads up in there, and I got the right side, or the big spring side, connected first. I actually hooked the big brake spring up, and then I put it up in there, and then I got my little cable pull situated on the little step that it fits in, and then I put the center pins in, and then I pulled it down, the brake pads down, and I put the adjuster and the little spring in. It's a whole lot easier doing the little spring last than the big spring last, in my opinion. It's hard as the dickens. There's not a lot of room to work, and trying to pull that big old spring down, a lot of pressure. So, like I said, I put the big spring in the brake pads, and then I put the brake pads up there and worked it. I left it as loose as I could, but I worked the brake cable pad in there, center pins and clips in, squeezed the pads together, adjuster, little spring. Easy peasy. You don't have to fight trying to get that big spring hooked up. And I should have made a step-by-step video, because the way I explain things probably ain't that clear. But if you can think about it, you'll figure it out. Just, you know, try it that way. And, you know, it's fumbly because there's not a lot of space to work, but it's not that hard to do. And then, of course, you put your rotor back on and adjust everything out, put everything back together, and you're good to go. Sorry I didn't make a step-by-step video. I was more concerned about getting the job done than making a lot of video. I'm sorry. But anyway, there you go.